everyone, it's Raina. So this is going to be a video for the full moon in Virgo, which is occurring on March 12th at 22 degrees of Virgo. And so as you can see, I already laid out the cards, and I'm glad that I looked some stuff up in one of the booklets because I found out that I was attributing a deck of cards to the wrong, I had them in the wrong box, let's put it that way. And so I'm starting this over again, and I did want to say a couple of things about the full moon in Virgo. Basically, full moons are associated with letting go of things that need to be let go of, that aren't serving you. It could be about purification, and this full moon particularly because Virgo is associated with the 6th house of health, and also about awareness coming to you about a particular matter. So what does Virgo represent? Well, Virgo represents health, it represents order, it represents your workplace, your work routine or your daily routine, what you do every day, you know, that schedule that you have. It rules your co-workers. So any of these issues can be important for you at that time. Things may come to a head. And this isn't even talking about the fact that you have this full moon in your chart in a certain place. I'm just talking about the 6th house being Virgo's house and the themes of Virgo and the themes of the 6th house. So I was deciding on what I should call my video, and I think I'm going to call it a return to purity, because I feel that, you know, with Virgo, there is this sense of purity. Virgo is the sign of the virgins. And within that purity, there is this sense of wholeness and freedom and, you know, a connection with one's higher self. And so there's definitely wonderful benefits from living a more pure life. In today's world, people are sometimes mocked for not living the typical life, for not eating a certain diet that most people eat, you know, from refraining from indulging in intoxicants, or, you know, not engaging in indiscriminate sex with other people. But when you look at all the things that can happen with those who do those things, you begin to understand that there are reasons why you had monks and nuns, which, by the way, is associated with Virgo because the Hermit card, the 9th card of the Major Arcana, is associated with Virgo. There's a reason why they had those types of practices, why celibacy and, you know, particular dietary, you know, restrictions and lifestyle restrictions were put into place, because these things can get us off track if they are taken to the extreme. Now, obviously, there are tantric yogis, for instance, who try to kind of straddle that line between enjoying the world and enjoying the spiritual dimension. And they're not doing it just for enjoyment. They're doing it to show non-duality. At least that's what I get from it. Because sometimes you can get, you know, so obsessed with purity that you go too far. Somebody who is orthorexic, who is trying to eat a pure diet and is so like phobic about consuming something that's not clean, they've gone too far. Somebody who's trying to achieve a certain weight and they go over the edge and it veers into an eating disorder. And one of the things that I think about in terms of perfectionism associated with Virgo is how much tyranny is associated with that mentality. I was studying early childhood education before, in a past life, well, I mean, I'm talking about, several years ago. And I had to go to different schools to observe the students. And at one school, I was with a bunch of kindergartners. And this one girl that I was there to observe, she was supposed to be cutting out shapes with her little scissors. And she was just sitting there, and she just had the scissors in her hand, and she wasn't doing anything. And I think I asked her why not. And I can't remember if she directly told me this. I think she did. But the upshot was that she didn't want to make a mistake. And it seems almost absurd to be that fearful of making a mistake that you wouldn't even try. But even adults do that, don't they? There are things that they want to do, but they're afraid that they won't succeed. They're afraid that they won't be good enough. And so hopefully you can free yourself from some of those tendencies by looking at areas where you are too hard on yourself. And it can be that extreme, but there's the other extreme where people do not strive for excellence because they're reacting to the same tyranny of perfection in the opposite direction. They're so afraid that they just say, I don't care anyway, so I'm just going to do it. I'm going to mail it in. And that's also due to the tyranny of perfectionism. So with that said, I'm going to talk about these cards. It's funny, the first card that I picked was a card related to Earth energy, the Queen of Pentacles. And this is a card, it's a double feminine energy. We have the Earth of the Pentacles and the Queen is the feminine energy. And this is a card of someone who is really enjoying their home and the comforts of their home. And what I would say about this is talking about the fact that Virgo rules the 6th house is, do you feel that sense of comfort within your home? Do you feel like, organization is present for you? I'm laughing because even though I have a moon in Virgo, I'm like, that's something that I have been striving for quite a while. And if you feel me, if you're like that too, think about the end result. The Queen of Pentacles is someone who loves her home, who loves her surroundings, who has luxurious surroundings. And you don't have to spend a lot of money to have that. You could go to a thrift store, and actually Virgos are very good at finding ways to be very eco-conscious, and going to thrift stores is a great way to be eco-conscious, not to mention save money, because you're recycling. You're using something that can be is oftentimes perfectly good and getting a great deal for it, and sometimes a lot better made than the stuff that you find in stores today. I've certainly found that to be true. And so maybe you need to honor yourself by letting yourself have nice surroundings. And maybe that is having that kind of a place to go home to can also benefit you spiritually, because you'll be able to relax more if you know where everything is, if you don't have to think about where you're going to find some of the basic things when you're walking out the door. The other card that I picked alongside that is the Ten of Cups, and this is kind of like the pinnacle of relationships. It can indicate marriage, and I think it would be cool for people who did get married in the month of March, because it's atypical. And so if any of you are getting married in March, I admire you. But also in terms of just this family harmony And if you don't feel that way now within your family, what can you do to change that? Because this is like the emotional goal of many people, to have a happy marriage and a happy home life. And this is the Queen of Pentacles is having that actual physical structure, being very comfortable and happy. So we're getting domestic energies for those cards. So what is going on in your lives that either are contributing to that or detracting from these experiences? You know, those of you who are earth and water signs, you are feminine signs, and you tend to put these issues at the top of your list. Family and home. Home and family, they usually say it in that order. For a fire sign like me, being a Sagittarian, or an air sign, we tend to be a little bit, I was going to say neglectful, or not realizing the importance of these things in our lives. Probably until it's too late. So maybe we need to place more importance on those aspects of life and realize that they do contribute so much to our sense of grounding and stability, you know, because that's one of the things that when you feel like your home base is solid, you can go out into the world and be your best self for other people. But if your home life is full of drama, that's not going to, you know, help you in the outside world. And then I got this, and I initially said, oh, I think I'm just going to read it upright, because I didn't know that they had reversed meanings in this particular deck. Now this deck, I got my decks mixed up. I think this is the Sandra and Taylor deck. Okay, and I got the Angel of Strength, number 50, in reverse. And what this means is that you need to start honoring the areas of your life where you need to be stronger. In other words, there may be some area, maybe it is your marriage, maybe it is your workplace, where you feel disempowered, and you have to know that you have the ability to change that. And so I'm assuming that this card is kind of like the Strength card in the Tarot. But you definitely need to see that in yourself. The sign of Virgo is a sign that typically has a lot of self-doubt because of that inner critic. And so that's something that a lot of us have to kind of figure out how to extinguish. And I think one of the best ways is through meditation, because stilling thought is really the way out of this problem. If you think about your thoughts, they may not be serving you much of the time. You know, the thoughts that are rattling around in that head of yours. So that's something to really look at. And with the full moon in Virgo, it's shining a light in this area and asking you to look at these things. And the final card, which I really love, that I got, and this is from, now this one is from Doreen Virtue's deck, Ascended Masters. I got Merlin, the Energy Healing. And when I was looking at the book, isn't this a beautiful, the colors though? I love this type of art. And just the colors, they work so well, and they're so vibrant. I did look in the book just to see what they said about Merlin. And so I guess Hermes is associated, and now that I think about it, I think the Magician card in the Tarot is ruled by the planet Mercury. So I'm hoping that I'm correct about that, because that would go along with what the book said. And basically, they mentioned, or I guess it's Doreen, mentioned about energy healing and the possibility that you may want to do something along these lines. It doesn't have to be just Reiki, although if that's something you have been interested in, you may feel like you have this gift. You may want to take classes in it. And I've gotten to level 2. And then there's also other kinds of energy healing, like shamanic types of healing. And also she mentioned burning sage, so that can like kind of purify the energy in a room. It's just acknowledging the non-material influences in our lives and how they can, you know, help to heal us or how they hinder our healing. And so I really think that this goes along well with Virgo, because I always associate Virgo with vegetarianism and herbalism and alternative medicine and, you know, not drugless health solutions. And so that certainly is the case for Reiki and things like that. And with the Magician card, it's very interesting if it is connected to Mercury, because that would imply, you know, because Mercury deals with communication, that they are saying that our thoughts really dictate our ability to manifest in a good way and a not so good way. Because if you think about it, you know, when people come down with a particular health issue, it can, you know, I think it's always considered that it begins energetically, and thoughts are not physical things. They're starting, you know, it depends on our consciousness. So definitely look into that if that appeals to you, because it could be like right up your alley, especially with this full moon in Virgo. So I hope you enjoyed this and got something from it, and namaste. Enjoy the full moon energy. Bye.